make a long story short, they didn't want anything, and that was really distressing.
Because I had looked at other places, I had already tried to figure out what this meant in terms of downsizing. And then I thought, I can unload this stuff. I have it because I have it. And it might be a good idea to start. There are a few things that I'm sorry about because they are so important to my life with my wife. But those days are gone.
They want none of my stuff. And that was very disappointing because they're my treasures.
Downsizing is a tremendous horror. But yes and no. I mean, you give up things that you think are the most wonderful thing. But nobody wants fine china anymore of your children because it doesn't go in the dishwasher. Nobody wants silver because they have to polish it. So all the things that you think are so wonderful are really not so wonderful. You got to get over it.
I was expecting them to want a piece of me. I mean, when you own something that is a memory, it's just that, it's a memory. And I was thinking that they'd want some of these memories, but they wanted really no part of it. But when they heard I was going to sell it, there became some interest. It's been a real interesting journey. I guess my advice to anyone is let it go. It's just stuff. You have to.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF, a nonprofit providing older adults in San Francisco with support to help age in place. Also by the Fromm Institute for Lifelong Learning and Shannon Greavy of A Bigger Room. I'm your co-host, Lynn Winter Gross.
Today on Not Born Yesterday, we're discussing a subject that can be both liberating and depressing. It's downsizing. Throughout our lives, we spend time and money purchasing and collecting things.
But as we age, these accumulated objects might become burdensome, especially if we decide to move our residence and need to downsize or get rid of things. If the items are piling up, they could create safety concerns. If we've lost a loved one, it can be emotionally difficult to let go of their belongings. The thought of parting with our possessions that hold so many memories and to which we are so attached can be overwhelming. On the other hand, the benefit of downsizing sometimes means less clutter to manage and a more simplified lifestyle. Our guest today is in the business of helping people get over the hurdle. Cathy Rice is a senior move manager at Senior Settlers, a California-based company that helps seniors manage relocation and downsizing. Cathy, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Thank you for the invitation.
So what does a move manager do?
We do a little bit of everything. If people need help in deciding how to stay in their home before they have to move to a senior community, we will come in and help them with their home to make it a little more of a safe environment, perhaps, to live in as their needs change, their abilities change. We also help people logistically with all of the components of moving, from deciding what to take. We bring the materials and we do the packing, we label the boxes, we'll help find moving companies. We do floor planning. So that also helps the client determine what they want to bring. And then we do all of the unpacking. We hang the art, we get the kitchens organized, we make the beds for the clients before we leave, and then we remove all of the packing material that we brought in.
Do you find that clients ever resent your advice or even decide they actually don't want to downsize at all?
Many of them decide it's just not the right time. And it isn't the right time because the decisions are too difficult to make. They're too emotionally based to make those decisions. I have to say that the decisions tend to be easier when our choices are more limited. And there's a point in our lives when climbing the stairs, even just to the front door, becomes problematic and prohibitive. And when it gets to that point, people are more open to considering other options for living spaces.
I was kind of thinking there used to be a television show called What Not to Wear. and they'd go through somebody's closet and they'd take this dirty old sweatshirt and say, "Oh, you got to get rid of this." And the person say, "No, no, no. It has such wonderful memories. I have to keep it." So I assume that you run into things like that as well.
Yes, exactly. And that's one of the challenges that I really like about the working with the clients, because I can use some probing questions to find out what's really beneath all of that. Like, really, what is it that's connecting you to this polka dot dress that you might not have worn, in 37 years? And then take that information and see, okay, how can we bring that information with you? Can we take a picture of it, and then put it in a frame? Like, take your favorite picture of you wearing that dress, and then we put it by the front door, so it's what you get to see when you enter and you exit every day. One of the principles that I like to say, kind of guidelines, is the favorite of the favorites. A lot of our stuff is favorite. We wouldn't have it otherwise. But when we have to make some choices, and those are difficult choices, let's even pare it down and go with the favorite of the favorite. And we can tell by people's reactions, their facial expressions, what their body language does, their energy level, and when they get excited about something. And then we okay, we need to make sure that comes with them.
So clients must feel relieved when you help them do that, and when they realize that there's some things that they don't need.
Yes, and many times I have to say it's as simple as giving them permission. Like, you have my permission not to take this with you. I know that your niece gave it to you. She may not remember that she gave it to you, but it doesn't fit into your lifestyle right now. And that's okay.
So, but how do you deal then with those family memories? We talked to a woman recently who said, "I have all this wonderful stuff that my parents gave me, my grandparents gave me. My kids don't want it. And I feel rejected because they don't want it." How do you help them start with that feeling?
The main goal is to be able to separate the emotions from those actual items. This gal feeling like she's rejected, like they don't like me because they don't want to take my things. When we really look at it, that has nothing to do with it. The kids and the relatives will say, "We love you. We love you deeply." It's just that piano and that china set doesn't work for me. And I don't use sterling silver tea sets, like perhaps you did. And I know it's near and dear to you. So let's find someone else who will consider that near and dear.
You talked about helping people move into a smaller space and what to take. How do you do that? Do you go into the new place and take measurements and then come back and say, "This couch won't fit," or "This bed is too big for the room"?
Yep, exactly right. Exactly right. We get floor plans if they're available from where they're moving. And if we can, we go to the empty room and take measurements and just visualize a little bit more about what's going on, especially the wall space. Many of the senior communities are inviting because they're so light and they have gorgeous views and beautiful windows, which is all wonderful and lovely, but it reduces the wall space. And why is that important to consider? Because that's where we hang photos. That's where we hang artwork. And if that space is gone, we have to, again, look very kind of in a challenging way at what we want, like the favorites of the favorite. So we get the floor plan and we do the measurements, and then we go and work with the client, unless they want to do it themselves.
I assume you've come across hoarders when you are helping people declutter it. I think they just like having a lot of things around them. So how can you make them feel comfortable when you're taking all those things they like around them away from them? And even if they've become health issues where the people have to step over it and might fall, I would assume hoarders are a real challenge.
Quite a challenge indeed. It's a challenge for everybody involved with the health and safety factors that you mentioned as well. But I do have to say that in working with hoarders, the process is the same. Keep the end goal in mind. And then we always aim and focus there. So the end goal could be, I want to get rid of 50% of my stuff, or I want to be able to walk in and have it feel open. I want to be able to walk from one room to the other, excuse me, in a straight path without anything blocking my way. Another practical way to work with hoarders is to keep in mind there are health and safety codes. And so these create rules that we follow. For example, nothing can be within 18 inches of the stovetop. And many times those kinds of parameters and boundaries help those who have hoarding tendencies. You also make a great point about the comfort of stuff. You are exactly right. So we do our best to continue to provide that comfort, what that might look like, whether it's strategically placing lamps or rugs, except unless they're tripping hazards, comfortable chairs, stuffed animals, things that feel comfortable and feel cozy without having a lot of it. I worked with a client who is a hoarder, and he was downsizing. We started with a walk-in closet. We had shelves around the top, rods to hang the clothes, and it was covered with his stuff. So we cleared it all out. He'd made great decisions about what he wanted to keep, and I put it all back in again. And he walked in, and the first thing he said is, "Oh, you can see the floor." And he was uncomfortable with that. So I said, "All right, let's put a rug down here. Get your rug that fits here." And he found a rug that fit in the closet, and that felt better for him. He didn't like that open space. Hoarders think spaces have to be filled. We challenge them to keep it open. It doesn't always have to be filled.
Cathy, I wanted to ask you about another group of people who I assume need your services, people who are holding on to stuff of a deceased partner. I can't get rid of that jacket. I remember when he wore that jacket, he was singing a song to me when we were engaged. Every little piece of memory is just too hard to get rid of. How do you help those people?
Having heart-to-heart discussions to begin with, identifying the goal. And sometimes through identifying the goal, it's very clear they're not ready to get rid of it. And it's just too heartbreaking to come in and force that. Occasionally, there have been people that are so connected to it that the items that you're mentioning is they found they've needed to have like a storage unit, some place just to put it, or a garage, or have a friend hold on to it. They're just not ready to part with it. But again, looking at the goal, identifying what it is about that brings those memories. How else can we get those memories generated? And that's why I like taking pictures so much and using those. And with phones, it's so easy to do, these days. And then again, with those like electronic picture frames where you can put a series of photos that display all day long. That's another great way to have those memories still very present for the person. The challenge comes in getting in there and finding out what is it about this particular item or the person that you miss the most.
Well, I assume that sometimes both parents are gone and the adult children hire you to go through the thing. So who decides who takes what? I mean, we've heard stories of siblings who stop talking to each other because of the arguments over who's going to get what and what is more valuable and, all the things that can happen in families. And I just wonder do you offer advice to them to let it work out for themselves? And is there ever a need for a special mediator to come in and solve all these things?
Right. Sometimes there is a need for a special mediator. The process protects us. And what I mean by that is who's the executor of the estate? Like we go back to what does the will say? What does the paperwork say? And then again, looking at the goals, like what is it that you want to do with this? And there have been occasions where a third party has become involved with the siblings to help them decide what goes where. Occasionally there have been times when it's become so emotional and chaotic that we give them a goal. Make the decisions by the end of the week, and then we'll be back and we will help you with those decisions if it needs to be sent across the country or taken to donation. Sometimes putting an endpoint on this discussion is really helpful for the families because they're dealing with so many emotions at the time. Their minds are going all over, crazy all over. And a lot of times that fear of the unknown is a factor. What's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? If she doesn't take this, but mom always said I could have that.
I know many of us have a lot of photo albums. And what do we do with all those photo albums? We put them in storage. Do our kids want them?
No, we probably don't want them. Digitize. So that is the word of the day, is digitize. There are many apps and companies and individuals who will digitize photos for families, meaning take all of the photos, put them in an order that makes sense, label them as they've been given to them, whatever information might be able to be included on that. And it's been a wonderful way to preserve those memories.
You mentioned storage a couple of times. It seems to me that a lot of people put things in storage and don't even remember what they are, and they're paying for that every month. So is there ever a time that it really is better to use storage than to actually eliminate the item?
Rarely. Yeah, rarely. I have to say with all of that, maybe there might only be 2 or 3 of all of the clients that we have and that we've worked with over the last several years that have storage units. When COVID hit, people were spending more time at home, as we know, and they were going through stuff and they were realizing they had a lot of stuff. There weren't places to take it to. A lot of the typical donation sites weren't open and weren't accepting items as they had previously. And so people were putting things in storage units. And now we fast forward a few years and are discovering that there aren't laws that govern how much storage units can charge their customers. And so some are finding the fees are increasing significantly from one year to the next, where it's becoming prohibitive for them. I think one of the best things to do is to get an inventory. If we are going to put things into a storage unit, have a list of what's in there, number the boxes. It helps with the overwhelm, so we don't have to do it all at one time.
That's a good comment. It helps with the overwhelms.
Yeah. So a couple of ideas to help with the overwhelm. I love a timer. Set a timer for a short amount of time, 15 minutes. And I'm going to do one shelf in the linen closet because by the time we take everything off of that one shelf in the linen closet and put it on the floor, it's a big couple of piles. And it's going to take 15 minutes at least to go through that. But the timer rings. You did what you set out to do. There's success. We're going to build on that and do that again the next time. The overwhelm comes when I look at everything and I can't, and it's just, there's too many decisions to make and I don't know where that end is.
You mentioned family heirlooms, I think, that have been passed down through generations that it suddenly stops. Nobody else cares about it anymore. So is that one of the things that people should start talking about before they die or before they start downsizing? Say to the kids, this painting grandma brought from Hungary, 100 years ago, does it mean anything to you?
And having those conversations now affords us the opportunity to talk about, well, if you don't want it, what are some other things we could do? Maybe we could look at a museum and see if they would like it as a donation, or the college I graduated from. So again, having that time ahead of time where the decisions aren't rushed, they're based on a discussion, allows us many, many more opportunities. And it's more joyful to be able to do it that way.
Where do you recommend people send things? Do you send things to Goodwill or consignment stores, or do people have estate sales? What do you do with all these precious items that you can't take with you?
I will say that Goodwill and Salvation Army are some of our choices as well, but there are so many others that are precede them on our list that those are the ones that we look at more towards the end. Books, there are several places that books can go, that clothes can go. I even found a place for a fur coat to go to. PETA, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals organization, they will accept them. You can send them fur coats, and they send them to women in the Ukraine. They send them to women in cold countries who need coats to wear.
So Marie Kondo, the downsizing guru, I guess she was, who started all this, says we should only keep things that give us joy. Do you think that's realistic?
I think it's a good place to start because it's easy to identify where the happiness lies for us in the things. As I said before, we can see that in reactions from people, in their voice, in their energy. They get excited about something. I'm like, okay, that's really important for them. But something else that may not necessarily, spark joy, bring happiness, is still something that, like, no, I want to keep this. I'm not ready to part with it for whatever reason. It might be practical. Then that's okay. But I do think that's a good place to start.
Cathy, thank you so much for your great advice and information. I feel like our listeners are about to run off and start downsizing immediately. Our guest was Cathy Rice of Senior Settlers.
Today on News You Can Use, we have some good news to share. While too many people seem to obsess about the negatives of aging, studies suggest that we experience more happiness and contentment in our later years. The following facts debunk some persistent myths about aging and explore the brighter side of aging.
As our bodies age, they naturally become more susceptible to a variety of illnesses, but migraine headaches are the rare exception. Migraines are usually developed in adolescence and are often due to a fluctuation of estrogen levels. However, the frequency of migraines eventually peaks at age 40 and actually gets better as we age.
For many of us, as we grow older, we gain a certain calm. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychiatry analyzed a random sample of people ages 21 to 100. Although the younger people in the survey responded positively in terms of physical health, older adults far outperformed younger generations in terms of mental well-being.
And here's one you probably weren't expecting. Older people sweat less than younger ones. As we age, our skin loses collagen and presses our sweat glands close to the surface of our skin, meaning older people sweat less overall. However, with a reduced ability to sweat, older adults can have trouble regulating their temperature during strenuous exercise or excessive heat. Thankfully, a lifetime of physical fitness helps slow down this process so you can sweat long into your golden years.
While we assume we all stop growing in our teenage years, it seems our bones continue to grow. A study from Duke University determined that the bones in the skull continue to grow, with the forehead moving forward and cheekbones moving backward. Unfortunately, this imperceptible bit of a facial movement exacerbates wrinkles. Because as the skull shifts forward, the overlying skin starts to sag.
And the pelvis keeps growing throughout your life. Scientists analyzing the pelvic width of 20-year-olds compared to 79-year-olds found that the 1-inch difference in width, which adds an additional 3 inches to your waistband. So our widening in the middle as we age isn't just a slower metabolism.
While our hips might get bigger, the pupils in our eyes get smaller. The human pupil is controlled by muscles, and as we add on the years, those muscles weaken. Because of this loss of muscle function, pupils get smaller as we age and are also less responsive to light. Smaller pupils make it harder to see at night, so people in their 60s need 3 times as much light to read comfortably as people in their 20s. Reading a menu in a dimly lit restaurant? You've probably already noticed that's harder than it used to be. So let's celebrate all this good news and go out and enjoy life at every age.
And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks to our guest, Cathy Rice of Senior Settlers. You can learn more about Next Village SF at their website, nextvillagesf.org, and check out the FrommInstitute.org, which offers a wide range of college-level learning opportunities for older adults. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Jason Dahlstedt is our engineer. Shannon Greavy is our social media consultant. And thank you for listening. We'd love to hear what you would like us to discover and discuss. Please contact us at notbornyesterdaypodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and also subscribe wherever you listen to the podcast. All of these are free, and they help us to know you better. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.